It's a very difficult time for the country losing Mama Winnie, but today we've seen a celebration of her life, and that's the sentiment. We need to celebrate her legacy.
Yeah. Yes, I guess with every life we mourn and we celebrate because we've got to find a place in our lives where we can bring some closure and appreciate what it is that that particular individual has given us. She has given us enormous strength. She has given us enormous courage, enormous support, and I'm glad to see that the people of Soweto are out here, the people in the country are celebrating her life, because it was a life well lived in the struggle, and the gains that she has given us are very tangible. So I'm glad we are at this point.
I spoke to Baleka Mbete, Thandi Modise about the role Winnie Mandela played in inspiring them as politicians. What was that moment for you when you looked at her, or looked up to her, and realized that I can learn so much from what she's done?
Well, no, my situation is slightly different. I grew up as, she was a member of my family, so I didn't have a moment, I didn't have an aha moment. Yeah. She was always there, and we always, there was just a group of them that were part of the family, and so I grew up in a family where she was there. Her influence was present, her influence was all over. I've lost a mother, so I don't have an aha moment politically. It's just an ever-present moment where she's been there from the time when all our parents were arrested, and she and my other aunt were the only adult people who were able to look after us. She took us to school, in boarding school, from time to time would come and visit. So she's just been a mother figure, just always there. And I guess it is in the in her bringing us up that we were able to develop, to understand we have our role to play. And she had always been very eager that we should be part, a very forceful part of the movement, because she felt that, we were born in a situation where we had to make sure that we fight for other children not to grow up the way we did. We had a terrible upbringing.
And a very critical voice within the ANC of what was happening and the slow pace that certain things were happening in.
Yes.
So who would be that critical voice now? I know you have many.
We have many. I mean, she could be critical because she's been a leading figure in the organization. And quite a number of them, the veterans, have been very critical as well of the way that we are, they perceive we're turning out to be. And she was very vocal about it. I think anybody who would be saying that they would be stepping into her shoes would be somewhat overestimating themselves. In that space, she would be irreplaceable right now.
What do you want the world to remember about Winnie Mandela? There's been so many things said about her. What's the one thing you want the world to remember?
She was very passionate about the struggle. And she allowed her passion to be very much, very evident. She cared very, very deeply about people. She was by training a social worker. So her training also assisted her to be very forceful about the way that she felt about the injustices around her. And she was in a situation where most of the other women in the struggle were slightly older than her, and she was the youngest, and therefore she represented a fresh, younger voice, and one that was indomitable, did not take too much nonsense from the apartheid regime. And she was not going to be bowed under any circumstances. She had a very strong inner strength, and it shone through in everything she did. But very caring of the ordinary person in the street, very caring There was a time when she said something that sounded very outrageous. But she says, look, I don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about the ANC. I'm ANC. And at that time, I think the misrepresentation was that she was claiming to be the sole representative of the ANC. What she was saying is what every ANC member should be saying. In everything I do, I represent the ANC. I'm ANC. I shouldn't look to anybody else to do what should be done. And now, with time, we have coined the term My ANC, which means each one of us take ownership of this organization to make sure that it does give to our people the promises that we gave them when we were fighting for liberation. She's irreplaceable.
Thank you so much for your time, and sorry for your loss. We appreciate your time. Of course, Lindiwe Sisulu, the Minister of International Relations, speaking about her relationship, Jeremy, with Mama Winnie. I have lost connection with you, so I'm not able to hear you, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tony Ngeni speaking to the media right outside here a little earlier, saying that he's not happy with the negative narrative around Mama Winnie, saying that this is not the right time to focus on those controversies, despite us having freedom of expression. He says she fought so hard for a democratic state that this is the time that we celebrate her life and not focus on the negatives. He was also asked about Thabo Mbeki, the former president, saying that the controversy should not be forgotten when it comes to Winnie Mandela Mandela, and he said he's upset by that statement. He believes that Thabo Mbeki knows that this is not the right time, and he believes that Thabo Mbeki should rather raise these things within the organization instead of speaking to the media about it.